Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I watched YellowJackets season 1, and I know this was like one of the big shows of the year, and everyone's already watched it and reviewed it, I think. I waited to get it on DVD, so I didn't stream it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't what I expected. I'd heard, all I'd really heard was Christina Ricci was in it. I'd seen pictures of her with this really weird hair, and I'd heard that it was about like a soccer team, girls' soccer team that got stuck in the wilderness, and it was like some sort of Lord of the Flies sort of thing. And I thought, well, that could be interesting. And yeah, it wasn't quite what I expected because on the flight there's two coaches and one of the coaches' two kids, and the two boys survive, and one of the coaches, he loses a leg but he survives. So it's not just like this sort of girl tribe. You have that sort of authority figure and male figure, as well as the other boys, which are the romantic interest and so forth. So it wasn't quite what I was expecting, and I also didn't know that it actually happened in two time frames, because the actual accident was back in 1996. Oh God, 1996, the 90s. Recognize all the music. I think. Yeah, I miss World. But yeah, so it was good. The first episode was basically just showing their lives, and at the end they get on the plane. And it did a little bit of that annoying Lost thing where you sort of see part of the crash and then they sort of go back to the crash. So they're going backwards and forwards, so you see different parts of the circumstances sometimes. But for the most part, they've crashed. The people who've lived have lived. The people who've died, and they're pretty much on their own. But then you see in the current world, 25 years later, 2021, they are sort of celebrities, not celebrities, but they're notorious, and they've never really talked about what happened, and people are pushing them for more because people think more happened. So there's people chasing them to get interviews, and there's a weird reporter that's been hovering around trying to basically buy them and get a book. And that lady was actually hired by one of the girls who survived, and it seems like only 4 of them survived. I think there are about 10 altogether. But some of them died. There was a girl who tried to fly a plane out, because, there are a lot of convenient things about this show. They find a lake near where they crashed, then they find a cabin near where they crashed, but yet it doesn't have any road or any way to lead them out of the area. They find a plane that was, I guess the guy flew in, and one of the girls read the manual, and she had flown with her grandfather on the similar plane, so she thought she could do it. Unfortunately, having sitting there for 10 years, it had motor problems, and it caught on fire and blew up over the lake, so she didn't get out. There was another girl who got attacked by a wolf because they tried to walk out to try and get to another area, and they got attacked by wolves, and one girl got her face partly bitten off, and I'm actually forgetting, did she die? No, they thought she died, and they were going to burn her body and everything, and then she woke up. And they sewed her face up, and she seems to have survived. I don't believe she would have I don't believe she would have survived. I don't believe she would have survived the infection. But now she's just got some very convenient small scars on her face, even though her face was basically opened up, and you could basically see her jaw and everything. So there's a little bit of bad writing where it's just like trying to do things that are shocking and sort of not looking at the big picture. It's just like, well, for this episode, let's do this. Let's have this shocking moment. There's a little bit of that in the last episode or two. The first, I think, 6 episodes are pretty solid. The last couple, and God, there's this one girl who's a Christina Ricci character who's absolutely disturbed. She breaks the black box because she doesn't want them to be found, because she feels important, because she has medical training, and no one else does. She has a bunch of shrooms, and she's been drugging one of the coaches, who's gay, mind you, because she's in love with him, and she's trying to get in a relationship with him. There's a really weird moment where she tries to... I'll leave that as a surprise if you haven't watched this. It's just really funny and creepy and just wrong. But yeah, she ends up having some shrooms that she was going to put into his drink and poison him, and she'd already poisoned him once already. And then they put it in the whole dinner they're cooking. So the whole lot of girls gets high on shrooms, and they start stalking the kid, because there's two kids. One's very young, and the other one's like their age, and maybe a year or so older. And he's kind of hot, so basically they start hunting him, and they were going to kill him. They were going to slit his throat, but the other girls, who I guess didn't have any of the shroom soup or whatever it was, stopped them. So it's all been very warped. And in the real world, I forgot, we've also got Juliette Lewis. They're sort of the two big stars, Juliette Lewis and Christina Ricci. They're the ones you recognise. The other actress, I'm not really sure who she was. The black actress, I thought she was another actress for a minute, and actually I read the credits. I'm like, oh, no, because I'm thinking, has she aged really badly, or is this someone else? But she's got some paranormal things happening, because one of the girls was having visions, and she was having blackouts and sleepwalking, and she's been climbing in trees and eating dirt and terrifying her son, who also seems to have visions, because she had visions when she was younger. And there are some interesting things happening, but it's all a bit all over the place. And there's something I didn't really like in the show. There's a mother, and you see her right from the start not being a very... She's lying on her daughter's bed with a vibrator, fantasizing over the daughter's boyfriend. And, you know, they're doing the bored housewife thing. She thinks her husband's cheating. What actually was happening was he had gotten into some debt for his business, and he's being blackmailed, so he was negotiating with these people and dealing with them the whole time when he was, like, you know, saying he was at work, and she thought he was cheating. So she meets this random artist guy who's really cute, and she ends up hooking up with him, and someone is blackmailing the group about the circumstances of their survival. And she believes it's him, and it does look like him. He was in her closet at one point, and someone picked up this money that they were being blackmailed for, and they tried to get away. They did get away, but they got knocked through a stall of like glitter and stuff. And when he showed up that night later on, after they got home, and he had to hide in the closet the next day from the husband, she found glitter in the wardrobe, and then her journals of their experience were missing, and that's what she was sort of protecting all this time. She kept a record of everything. So she thinks it's him, so she goes to his house, and he has lied about who he was. He said that he went to a school when he didn't, and the daughter made her paranoid and said he's not online, he must be fake, he must be scamming you. And she found a book on their story, and she thought, and he said, look, I found out who you were afterwards, I just want to know who you were. You went through this trauma, I just want to understand. And she basically confronted him and stabbed him and killed him. And then she went to the other girls. She found out it was her husband who was trying to blackmail her to get money out of her rich friend who was running for office, which is how this all started, which I should have mentioned before. One of the girls runs for office, and she actually hires the journalist to go around and try and get one of them to sell out, trying to get ahead of other people who might be trying to do the same thing. So it's a big, huge mess, and the Christina Ricci character actually kidnaps the journalist and keeps her captive, but then kills her anyway after she lets her think she's going to leave. She's probably the evilest character, and she's interesting, but she's scary. Juliette Lewis is scary in her own way. She hooks up with one of the boys that she sort of was friends with, had a crush on her when they were in high school, but she sabotages that. She takes his gun. He's a police officer. She takes his gun during the night when they're trying to catch the guy who's doing the picking up the bribe, the money. So it's interesting, but I didn't like the way it ended. Basically, they had a reunion, so of course they had to have prom, because everyone has to have prom, and they did a prom as less reunion, but it's like a prom. And they had an actual prom in the woods because they missed theirs. And just the very last thing is 3 random strangers, because they get rid of the body and everything, and there's really no consequence. This guy's just killed. He did nothing wrong. He was just a nice guy who met her and liked her. And she cheated on her husband, who wasn't cheating on her. She kills the guy because she thinks he was guilty of something he wasn't guilty of. They dispose of the body, and there's no consequences. Nobody cares about this guy. It just really I kind of bothered me for a minute or two. And at the very, very end, there's 3 guys show up and just snatch Juliette Lewis and drag her out of a hotel and throw her in a van, and that's the end. I'm like, oh, so random cliffhanger. And yeah, it just felt a little bit exploitation-y and gimmicky in some parts. Like I said, the first 6 episodes are pretty solid, and then they seem to get to the trying to create twists and turns and shocks and stuff like that. And you know, a lot of people love that, but you know, they don't really service the story, and then they don't really work sometimes for me anyway. But I still enjoyed the series. I'm going to watch the second season, of course. And I really did enjoy like the first, because I watched the first 5.5 episodes and fell asleep, and then I watched the second. I was supposed to watch it all in one day, but I took too long, and I ended up watching half the show one night and half the show the next night, or a bit more than half the show, whatever. But I got through it. It was good. I will watch the second season. I would recommend it. It's just it's not the quite the intellectual, serious exploration of that sort of circumstance I thought it was going to be. It's a bit more of a exploitation drama. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.